All right, relationships. This is when a database gets fun, the backend gets interesting. You start having relationships between tables. This thing has a link to another thing, or this one has many things, or this one is connected to this one, but via this other thing here. And this is where like expressions in Bubble, or you're kind of always bending your mind around it. How do I get this data, but I have this connection, and so on. And we're going to see here how we create some of those. But first, let me just kind of fix something that I realized I was doing wrong before, because I was trying to do this, to just have this action with the default action here, and because I was putting this attribute as public, and I thought, oh, okay, this is going to run, but it's not finding the input, right? It says no such input, even though I made it public. And what I had to do is to come in here and actually put this here. And now if I run this test again, it's going to pass. So what this is doing is just a shorthand saying, okay, for the create action, you can accept any of the, kind of all the attributes that are public, right? So if I go back here and let's make it false, run the test again, it's going to fail. Right, because the same thing, no such input, right? And then we can kind of go in here, put it to true. We can even do this one here. We can put that there. Ah, by the way, if with the update I could do the same thing, but if I put that update here, the compiler is going to yell at me. See, it stays red, syntax error, and so on. And this is something that it took me a while to understand, but it's like if you have if you have a mix of atoms and keywords, so which is like a key and a value, like this case, the key and a value needs to be in the end. So I just put that here, and now the update action is going to work. Our tests are still going to pass, because we're creating here, we're updating, and both of them are still working. All right, now, so on to relationships. And this is, the docs is great for this. I mean, the Elixir docs, the Ash docs, the Phoenix docs, they are fantastic. Lots of good information, good examples, and so on. And this is no, no slouch here. So relationships. This is how we're going to connect everything. And you can see here the what you have to do to create a relationship is just, down here, you just need to put that in there. See, and one thing is that you don't need to even create the attribute that you need. For instance, here, what this is going to do is going to create on this table. So belongs to is the one holding the finger, holding the key. This is how I try to remind myself who has the ID. So belongs to has the ID. So what this is going to do when you run the migration is that it's going to create an attribute called owner_ID. And that's going to point to a foreign key over here of whatever type this is, which in this case, in our case, is going to be a UUID. Right, so let's go ahead and add one in here. So I'm going to, let me just open the user on the right. And what shall we do? A user belongs to workspace. Let's do it like that. So we can just come here at the bottom, say relationships, not autocomplete, it's going to do a bad job. And I can just say here, this is a belongs to, and we're going to say workspace, and we're going to go for de facto workspaces, workspace. Okay, so now this is going to create a relationship there. And we can do now is add in here, say, look, there is a kind of a relationship back to it, right? But instead of saying belongs to, since that thing is already pointing to us, we just say, look, this one is going to be a has many, and it's going to be users, and it's going to be the de facto account user, right? So this is going to, now if I run the migrations here, which I have here, the code gen, right? So it's going to generate the migrations down here. And we can see the migration it created. You can see, look, alter the table, add a column called this, that's going to reference the workspace ID and so on. And then we can just, let's do a setup. No, setup. This is going to set up the database, run all the migrations, and then if we come in here, we can then go to the workspace and we can see that, the user, and we can see that there's a workspace ID, type UID, pointing to that, the foreign key, right? And the foreign key is going to be here, right? So creating relationships as simple as that. Okay, this is quite a straightforward one, is the kind of relationships. And now what we can do, if we go back to the our test, let's open it here. Let me just do a dbg of this, dbg workspace, so that we see what it looks like. And I run this, and I put it over here. We can see now that it has an extra key there in the workspaces that says users, and you have a relationship now loaded. Okay, so this is going to be the okay. If you want to access this field, there's a quick way to do this, right? And we can just do it here. Let me just take it down here, and let's say loaded workspace, and I can say that it's going to be ash load, and we're going to take the updated workspace, and we're going to load the users, right? And then we can go ahead and dbg that loaded users, and since we have nothing, it's going to say nil, or just an empty array, or not. Forbidden. We cannot read this. I have to remember how to do this. Let's see. We're probably going to need. We can do, I think, authorize, and it's going to be false. So that means that it's not going to run the authorization. Let me see. No, that's not it. This is it. Yeah, voila. So now it kind of bypasses the authorization. Is there is no enforcement on who can read what. Right. So now you can see there, users empty. All right. So now, how do we create this users? How can we test this relationships? If you go to users here, you'll see that we don't, because of the way it's set up, and we set it up with the ash authentication, and it only has the magic link sign in, right? So for you to sign in, for you to get your user, you need to have a token. For you to get a token, you need to actually request a magic link. That request magic link, there's a bunch of stuff. Okay, this is maybe a bit too much. Before actually creating some test data, let's just do the kind of easy way, and we're gonna go in here and say for what is it, ash authentication. Just go in there. We go to mixed tasks, and we can just run this, and this should give us the password strategy. Right, so it just ran here, so it's gonna, let me go back to the full screen. It's gonna do a bunch of stuff here. So it's gonna change the users, it's gonna add a kind of a bunch of stuff here for us, and it's gonna add also some packages, right? And then it's gonna actually, yeah, go ahead and do that. We're gonna do one big commit at the end of it all. Voilà, so now we have, in the users, we're gonna have so we have update change password, and sign in with user, that's a read, and we're gonna have a create here, register with password. And this one accepts an email, and it's gonna accept these two here, a password and a password confirmation, right? So in our test, let's go ahead and create a new test here. A workspace can have many users, and then we can go ahead and go with, let's go ahead and alias de facto ex account user. Right, and then we're going to do that here. So we're going to create let's say the assert first user1, and that's going to be equal to user. Let's see if there's no create here. What's it called? Register? No. So we go with the classic way, the long way, right? So user, we're going to pipe it into a hash change set for create, and that's going to be the register with password, right? And then we're going to pass this the map to it. The map here is going to be, we need to have the email, the password, and the password confirmation, right? So let's put here test 1, 2, 1, 2, 2. Okay, that's fine. And here, and then the email test@test.com, right? And then hash create, and that should maybe, let's do the user 1 here, right? And this one should create a user for us, or maybe get blocked in authorization. Duplicate data. Okay, I think I know what it is. So we can do it like this: mix env test mix acto drop. So what happened is that I was testing some stuff, and then I think the test database got messed up. So I'm just going to drop it. Well, at the moment I run the test again, it should rebuild it all. And we have a failure here. So what's the problem? Error forbidden. Okay, so we have to again pass this in here, and we're going to say authorize false. Right, so we're skipping authorization there just for this test. And voila, we got a user now, right? And you can see here's the workspace ID is empty, and the relationship is also not loaded. So let's do like this. We're going to create a workspace, and we're going to say workspace dot create and name some workspace, right? And then we're going to use that here, workspace ID, and we can use the workspace.id. And I should use the bang form so that it doesn't return the tuple, and then this should give us a user with a workspace. Create, okay, because this needs to be error, invalid. Okay, so the register with password doesn't allow us to pass the workspace, right? So we need to now find an update here. Let's see which ones are update actions. Default read, change password. Reset password, no. Let's just add another one here. So what we're going to do is, let's say we're going to update action, add to workspace, and this should be, let's see here, I need to look at the other ones, yeah. And we're going to take an argument of workspace ID, which is a string, and what we're going to do is change, let me see here, it is, right, so we're going to say change set attribute workspace ID to arg workspace ID. Or actually, we can just say this is accept workspace ID. Right? So this thing here should, is this in the right place? Update. Yeah, it looks like it's not in the right place. Let's see here. No, there's something wrong here. Let me add it here so that it. Something funky going on here. Let me see. Action. This begins and ends there. This one begins and ends here. Why is restart? Okay, so now I should be able to create this user, then take assert okay updated user 1, and that's going to be equal to user, and we're going to pipe it into ash change set for updates, and that's going to be the add to workspace, and we're going to pass a parameter. Parameter is workspace ID, and we're going to associate this to workspace dot ID, and we just do authorize false, and then we do ash update, and this now should be, if we take a updated user 1, if everything went right, no, wrong one. A record, yeah, okay, this is incorrect. Now add to works for update. We need to pass the user 1 first, there you go. So instead of passing the empty struct, voila. Now we have this, so we have a user with the workspace, right? And we can do that again. Let's create another user. Let's just yank this, paste another one. Here 2, test 2. Voilà. Now we can have the user test 2. We're going to add that one also to the here. Right, and what is it? Why do you not like this here? Restart. Language servers fighting me today. dbg updated user 2. We should have both of them with the same workspace, right? And now we can start doing that interesting thing of, we can see here the users. We can say, look, after you update, you can actually load for me the workspace, right? So now the load the workspace. So now if I run this again, one of the users is going to show up here with the details inside of it. And you can see here, this is a struct. So this is the, like normally if you have just the little percent kind of curly braces, it's just a normal map. This one is a special map, it's a struct of this type, and then you can see here. So the ID is this, so this is the same ID as that, which is the same as this, and then you have the user inside of there. And if you want to really go crazy, you can say, you know what, load the workspace. So we have to put this in here, and I want you to load the users too, right? And I'll just put this here like this. And now it's going to load the user, load the workspace, and then load recursively all the users inside of it. Okay. And then for some reason here it's not giving me all of the users, but to scan them. But let me just do it like this: workspace.users. So now it's going to show all the users, and there's only one. Did I mess up here somewhere? Updated user. There's something. Workspace ID 112. Ah, here we go. That's the problem. Okay, so now you got the workspace with both users, and that was line. I think if I do this now, we should have this big kind of recursive mapping there. And this is, how you can load a bunch of stuff. You probably wouldn't do this in production, because you kind of, can up in a infinite loop, or like this n of one problem that you keep on loading a bunch of stuff. But normally the load operation tends to be quite efficient, right? And we can do the same the other way around, is to say loaded workspace, and we can say we're going to be the hash load workspace, and we want to load the users, and let's just say authorize false, just to be sure, and then budget the loaded workspaces. Right, and then we can see here that the loaded workspace has, it is that thing we just created. We have there the test 2, test 1, and so on. Right, so this is how we're going to be creating relationships. All right, so what did we cover today? We did, well, first we did this little shorthand here of you can just pass all publicly available attributes to this type of creations. They need to be at the end, not at the beginning. Then we looked at the relationships, just the belongs to has many, probably the more used one. Belongs to is the one that has the foreign key to it. So the, we had the user had the workspace _ ID pointing to the workspace. And the other way around, there was nothing in the database there. It's just saying, okay, Elixir is going to figure out how to get this. And then we did a bunch of loads here first to see how these tests work, so that we can see how they can, you can load the stuff related to it. All right.